The morning had all the makings of a perfect TV moment. Today with Hoda Kotb was abuzz with excitement. The lights shimmered against the sleek studio floor, crew members hustled to their stations, and fans filled the audience rows with coffee cups in hand, eagerly awaiting the arrival of country superstar Blake Shelton. Known for his humor, charm, and unfiltered honesty, Blake was a fan favorite, and his new album was climbing the charts fast. Producers expected an easygoing, laughter-filled interview. But what no one knew was that Blake had arrived with a storm brewing beneath his calm exterior. In recent days, social media had been merciless. A tweet Blake had posted, a sarcastic remark meant as a joke, had been taken out of context, sparking outrage online. He'd faced headlines labeling him insensitive and out of touch, something that genuinely stung. Though he laughed it off publicly, friends said he'd been furious behind the scenes. Still, Blake showed up to the studio with his trademark grin, shaking hands, cracking jokes, and sipping coffee like everything was fine. When the cameras started rolling, everything seemed smooth at first. Hoda, cheerful as ever, greeted him warmly. Blake Shelton, everyone, she beamed, as the crowd erupted in applause. "It's so good to see you again." "Always a pleasure, Hoda," Blake replied, flashing that easy grin. The first 10 minutes flowed effortlessly. They joked about his life on The Voice, his marriage to Gwen Stefani, and his decision to spend more time on his Oklahoma ranch. He even told a funny story about accidentally feeding the wrong grain to his chickens. The audience loved it. But the tone shifted when Hoda leaned slightly forward and glanced at her notes. Her next question came with a subtle pause, the kind that signals a pivot to something more serious. "Blake," she began carefully, "you've always been one to speak your mind, and your fans love that about you. But there's been a lot of talk about that post you made last week. Some people found it a little controversial. How do you respond to the criticism?" The crowd quieted instantly. Blake's smile faltered. He exhaled slowly and adjusted his posture, suddenly looking more guarded. "Well, Hoda," he said after a beat, "I came here to talk about the album. I didn't realize we'd be diving into social media drama." Hoda, trying to keep things light, smiled and nodded. "Of course," she said gently, "but you know how it is, your fans are curious. They just want to hear your side of it." That was the wrong move. Blake's eyes hardened just a bit. "My fans already know who I am," he said, his voice calm but sharp. "They know I joke around. I don't owe an explanation to people looking to twist my words." The audience murmured. Hoda, ever the professional, tried to ease the tension with humor. "Well, we all know you're not one to hold back," she said with a light chuckle. "That's part of your charm." But Blake didn't laugh. He leaned forward, his tone rising slightly. "You know what? That's the problem. Everyone loves it when I'm honest until it doesn't fit their little headline. Then suddenly I'm the bad guy." Hoda's expression softened. "Blake, I don't think anyone's calling you the bad guy," she said. "People are just..." He cut her off. "Come on, Hoda, you know how this works. I've been doing interviews for 20 years. Someone asks a simple question, and the next day, the story is, Blake Shelton snaps on live TV." The irony, of course, was thick, because that's exactly what was happening. The control room buzzed with activity. A producer mouthed to Hoda, "Commercial break," while another frantically gestured for the camera to zoom out. Hoda tried to regain control. "Let's take a second," she said softly. "We're just having a conversation." But Blake wasn't done. "No, you're trying to bait me," he said, pulling off his microphone clip. "I thought this was about my music. I've got a lot of respect for you, Hoda, but I'm not doing this." The audience gasped as Blake rose from his chair, his expression a mix of anger and disappointment. "Good luck with your show," he muttered, turning away as producers tried to intervene. "I think I'm done here." The camera tried to follow him, but the director quickly cut to a wide shot of Hoda, who sat frozen for a moment before forcing a composed smile. "Well," she said lightly, "looks like we'll be right back after the break." The screen faded to black. The audience buzzed in disbelief. Crew members whispered, producers argued in headsets, and Hoda sat silently for a few moments before heading backstage. Blake was already gone. His car had pulled out of the NBC lot before the commercial even ended. What had begun as a routine morning interview had turned into one of the most talked about live TV moments of the year. Within minutes of the broadcast cutting to commercial, clips of Blake Shelton storming off today with Hoda Kotb flooded social media. Viewers who had tuned in for a lighthearted country music chat found themselves witnessing one of the most shocking live TV moments of the year. The internet moved fast, faster than any PR team could. By the time NBC uploaded the episode to their website, TikTok had already broken it into bite-sized clips, each with millions of views and thousands of comments dissecting every second of the exchange. Hashtag Blake Shelton walks off and hashtag Hoda vs Blake were trending within the hour. Some viewers sided with Blake, saying Hoda ambushed him with gotcha journalism. Others claimed his reaction was immature and disrespectful, arguing that a veteran performer like him should have handled the question more gracefully. Everyone, it seemed, had an opinion, and none of them were quiet about it. Behind the scenes at NBC, the mood was tense. Producers scrambled to issue statements while Hoda sat in her office, still processing what had happened. She had been interviewing celebrities for decades and had navigated some of the toughest moments live on air, but this was different. She hadn't meant to provoke Blake, she'd simply followed the questions the producers had agreed upon earlier. Yet somehow, it had spiraled out of control in seconds. That afternoon, she posted a brief, measured message on X, formerly Twitter. Blake Shelton is one of my favorite people to talk to, always honest, always real. Sometimes conversations get tough, but that's part of live TV. Still love you, buddy. The post was classic Hoda, kind, professional, and diplomatic. But it didn't stop the storm. Comment sections were flooded with fans taking sides, turning what had been a spontaneous, emotional moment into a cultural debate. Was Blake right to walk off? Was Hoda wrong to press him? Even other celebrities weighed in. Country stars like Jason Aldean and Miranda Lambert subtly backed Blake, posting cryptic messages about the media twisting words. Meanwhile, TV personalities and talk show hosts defended Hoda, calling her one of the most respectful interviewers in the business. The public divided into camps, and every entertainment outlet was suddenly obsessed with the feud. For Blake, the fallout hit hard. That same evening, he canceled his scheduled interview with Entertainment Tonight and postponed his upcoming appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Close friends told reporters he was furious and felt blindsided. Inside sources claimed he'd warned producers beforehand that he didn't want to discuss the social media controversy, but the question had made it into the final script anyway. 3 days later, Blake broke his silence. In a video posted to Instagram, he appeared on his Oklahoma ranch, wearing a flannel shirt and a ball cap, leaning against a wooden fence with the wind rustling in the background. "Hey, y'all," he began calmly, his tone firm but tired. "I just wanted to clear something up. I didn't walk off because I can't take criticism. I walked off because I'm sick of being asked about things that don't matter. I'm a musician. I came to talk about my music, not the internet." He paused for a moment before continuing. "I respect Hoda. She's great at what she does. But sometimes enough is enough. I stand by what I said. I'm done playing into drama." The video went viral instantly. Fans flooded his comments with messages of support. "Good for you, Blake. Finally, someone standing up to the media." Others, however, accused him of being unprofessional, saying that walking off live TV was never the right move. The divide only deepened, but one thing was clear: everyone was talking about Blake Shelton. Ironically, the controversy boosted his career rather than hurting it. His new album's streams tripled within a week. The single he performed just before the incident, "Stand My Ground," shot to #1 on iTunes. Some called it coincidence, others believed Blake had turned a PR nightmare into a masterstroke of authenticity. Meanwhile, Hoda returned to her show the next morning with her usual grace. "Live TV is unpredictable," she told viewers with a gentle smile. "Things happen, but Blake's a good friend, and I wish him the best." She didn't say more, she didn't have to. Her calm, forgiving tone earned praise from fans who admired her professionalism. Weeks passed, and though the frenzy slowly faded, the story lingered in pop culture. Late-night comedians joked about it, tabloids milked it for headlines, and every entertainment podcast had its own inside take. Then, about a month later, fate brought them back into the same room. The Country Strong Foundation hosted a charity gala in Nashville, honoring artists who'd made significant contributions to rural communities. Both Blake and Hoda were scheduled to attend, and everyone wondered if they'd cross paths. When they did, cameras captured a moment that spoke louder than words. Hoda, in an elegant navy gown, spotted Blake across the room. He was chatting with friends, his usual charm back in full force. Their eyes met, and for a brief second, the tension that had once filled a live TV studio seemed to melt away. She smiled warmly. He smiled back, lifting his glass slightly in acknowledgement. No drama, no words, just mutual respect between two professionals who'd weathered a storm in front of millions. The clip made its way online, and fans cheered. It wasn't a reconciliation statement or a sit-down interview, but it was enough. The feud, as it turned out, wasn't about anger, it was about two people caught in the unpredictable current of fame and live television. And in the end, both Blake Shelton and Hoda Kotb walked away with something more valuable than headlines: authenticity.